Extra Point. Tyler Head, live on location here at Charwood Golf Club as we are honoring Veterans Day today for their annual Veterans Day golf outing. So we're going to be out here all day long. Elijah, Preston, and the crew are out here from 6 until 9. We'll be out here from 9 until noon. Then myself and Bill Gunner will be hanging out from 12 until 3 as well. Jack Beltry also joining me as always. Jack, a little bit cold this morning. I don't know if I would want to be golfing today, but I'm not a great golfer anyway. So the cold weather is just another deterrent for me. But a lot of people out here are going to enjoy the golf course and obviously celebrating Veterans Day as it finally feels like fall and almost winter out here today.
Yeah, the people golfing today, I wish them the best of luck, not just to play well, but also to deal with the elements, because I walked outside in a T-shirt for probably 5 minutes to move my car this morning, and it is freezing outside. Like, we're talking like really, really cold temperatures, even for me. So it's definitely cold today.
Yeah, I sat in my car for about 10 minutes when I got here, just enjoying the heat before having to brave the 2-minute walk to come inside. So, yeah, best of luck to everybody going out there today. Hopefully you dressed warm because it's certainly going to be a cold one. And before we dive into everything, obviously appreciate and want to shout out all the veterans, those that have served us for our country. And that's what we're doing today, honoring veterans on Veterans Day. And I'm sure, like you, Jack, you probably got people in your family, or like me, Jack, you probably got people in your family that have served and obviously, done the duty for our country, and we certainly appreciate all of them.
Nah, man. I mean, look, we get all the freedoms in this country to do all these great things and talk on radio and write about sports and watch sports for a living. It's great, but we couldn't do it without the people that protect our freedoms and serve this country. So appreciate all the veterans out here on this wonderful, really nice Veterans Day outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, out here at Charwood Golf Club celebrating Veterans Day with all of them and their annual Veterans Day golf outing, though it is a little bit cold out here. But a lot of things dive into football-wise, which we'll get into here in just a moment. But as always, it is 9 o'clock, and we must kick things off with our Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
All right, it is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803 all nines. Jack, we finally get back to normal today. We'll have the Beamer press conference. Players will speak, around noon today. And we'll kind of get back in the rhythm of things. They get set to take on Texas A&M coming up on Saturday and wrapping up the final 3 games of the regular season. Over, under, and how many questions about the offensive coordinator, either filling in with Mike Furry for the last 3 games or the job search that's going to be happening over the next couple weeks and once the season ends. How many total questions about that today?
Depends who we get. I requested Lenore Sellers, Nick Harbor. So I'm expecting quite a lot today. I couldn't give you a certain answer, but that will definitely be the main talking point. Because again, this team's 3-6. They are kind of, I think another popular question today will probably be like, hey, you guys have your backs up against the wall now. What's the mentality going into these final 3 games? Now, obviously, they're going to say like, hey, we need to win all these games to get to bowl eligibility and whatnot. But definitely the main talking point today, as it should be, will be
Sure.
Coordinator position with Mike Furry, what differences they've noticed, and their thoughts on what just happened with Shula and looking for a new OC.
And I do often wonder when it comes to coaching changes like that, is that something that can motivate you a little bit more, right? And look, I got to imagine they would never say it when they're in the media availabilities and all that kind of stuff. They give you pretty straightforward corporate type of answers, but I imagine within the locker room, the conversations between players, they're probably pretty frustrated with how the offense has been. And maybe some of them, look, we've all had coaches that we didn't like their way of coaching things, their philosophy on things, that maybe internally it was like, hey, man, we don't think that, Coach Shula was doing what he needed to do to make our offense successful. Maybe there's some excitement now with Mike Furry taking over. He's a very intense guy, high energy guy that can hopefully kind of bring that juice to the offense. So I hope it's something the players are excited about, and we see that resonate with how they play on offense on Saturday.
That's what you hope. You hope this does lead to some good because, Look, part of the reason why Shula was fired is not just because of his play calling and the fact that it did not work. I think everyone has a hand in it, as Shane Beamer would say. Like players have a hand in this too, where they're just not executing at the level necessary to make this thing work. And there's a reason why Mike Shula is no longer here. So hopefully this will spark the guys to go out there and play for each other, play for Furry, play for Beamer to keep this thing going, and hopefully they can kind of hopefully get back to being, the team that we all thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year and save whatever is left of the season.
Well, technically, they do have goals still in front of them because if they do win the final 3 games, they would make a ball game. Now that, in a lot of our opinions, is probably a little bit of a stretch considering how much of a monster Texas A&M currently looks like as of right now. But, hey, crazier things have happened. If you've been watching college football, we nearly saw Penn State take down Indiana this past weekend, so nothing's impossible. And Carolina certainly has, we believe they have the talent to be able to compete with just about anybody, as we've seen them be in just about every single game that they've lost, including having a lead on Alabama in the late stages only a couple weeks ago. So it's not outside the realm of possibility, but that offense does have to take a significant step forward because it's probably not a surprise to say 21 points is probably not going to beat A&M on Saturday.
It's not. You're going to have to score. You're going to have to score a lot of points to win this game. You're going to have to play great defense to win this game. And that may not even be enough. I mean, you're going to really have to have A&M beat itself to win this game while also doing your part. And that's the toughest thing, Tyler, I think, as a football team, is you can do everything in your power, offense and defense, to go out there, and special teams too, to win a football game. But it may not even be enough because the other team is just that good. And Texas A&M has been incredible all season long. So it is going to probably be the toughest challenge that South Carolina's faced all year long. I feel like we say that a lot at this point with Alabama and Ole Miss, LSU back when they were doing pretty well. But this is definitely going to be the latest, biggest challenge that the Gamecocks will have to face all year.
So as we head into these final 3 games, and look, we're going to talk about plenty about A&M specifically as the week goes along. Mike Elko talked yesterday. Of course, Beamer going to talk today, going to give his thoughts on the number 3 team in the country, and we'll certainly get more specific about the matchup as the week goes along. But as we look at these final 3 games, and Wes on Gamecock Central wrote about his 3 specific goals for this team as we wrap up the season. What are some goals that you're looking at saying, okay, here's things that I think you can accomplish in these last 3 games, whether that gets you to a bowl game or not?
I think number 1 is you got to see some sort of difference on offense. You got to see that this group at least has somewhat of a pulse in these final 3 games. I'm not saying they need to go out here and score 40 points a game. That would be ideal. That would help out a lot in trying to win these final 3 games. But I would really like to see that this change was made, and it's like, oh, yeah, like there's progress now being made on offense. Like this firing of Shula led to some good. So that would probably be the first goal I would have with just this team in the final 3 games.
I'll kind of go off of that and get a little bit more specific with it. I want to see Lenore Sellers play with a lot more confidence, and that's something that I talked about last week on the halftime show when I had Perry Orth on. I was kind of asking him what difference, Mike Furry taking over as play caller can make. And he was talking about hopefully instilling that confidence in Lenore Sellers because we know what Lenore Sellers' abilities are. We know how good of a quarterback he can be. We saw it plenty of times last year. We've seen bits and pieces of it this season. But I go back to the last game they played against Ole Miss, and it just looked like he was not playing with confidence. And that's why he was missing throws. That's why he was making bad reads. That's why he was hanging on the ball for as long as he was. I just want him, and I don't know if Mike Furry can unlock this or not, but my hope is that he can give him the ability or the confidence to go out there and just play free. Go play his version of football and be the Lenore Sellers that we know he can be.
Yeah, that's definitely another goal that you want to have over these final 3 games is Lenore Sellers playing like Lenore Sellers. Now, it's still unclear what his future is going to look like after the season. He will have a ton of options at his disposal. I'm sure there's going to be other teams in college football that are trying to pay him handsomely to come to their school and be better developed. And I'm sure that's going to be the pitch that that this school can do X, Y, and Z compared to what South Carolina did this season. But he could also go to the draft. He could also come back to school. But I think more importantly than that, let's see Lenore Sellers close out the season on a high note, go do what he does best, and we'll see. Maybe some chains will have been taken off in terms of Mike Shula's play call and kind of limiting Sellers a bit. Maybe Mike Furry will try to do everything in his power to make sure Lenore's returns to that guy that we all saw last year.
Do we think, given the fact that you had an extra week off with the bye, do we think the offensive line can be anything significantly better? Because I think when you made the change from Lonnie Teasley now, a month ago, we thought, okay, well, within a season, it's really hard to make differences outside of maybe cutting down on the pre-snap stuff. But given the extra couple days to only focus on fundamentals and that kind of stuff, can this offensive line get any significantly better for these final 3 games?
It's possible. I mean, they played pretty well in that Alabama game where they only get one true sack and then blocked pretty well in that game. I will say this: they kind of are what they are. We know they're not very good this season, but I think that being said, you can see definitely improvements over these final few games, whether it's less TFLs given up, less sacks, just more time for Sellers to move and get some plays going. So a lot of these sacks definitely are on Lenoris, and he's been given time and he's just taking hits and not throwing the ball away. So it's not all on the OL, but certainly they have not been great this year, and you'd like to see some improvements made. I just don't know how, because the personnel is what it is. Maybe just straight up just blocking better. I'm just not sure what else you could say besides that.
Well, and that'll be an interesting thing to see with Mike Furry if he has any other ways of scheming up this offense that can account for the inefficiencies that you have up front. Again, we saw Shula get the ball out quick at times and use some things that prevent runs from going up the middle, using things to the outside, going kind of vertically instead of horizontally. I'm interested to see if Mike Furry maybe takes that to a higher degree as he takes over play calling this upcoming weekend, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, we definitely will. I mean, just the ultimate goal for South Carolina with the 3 goals that we're talking about is to go 3-0. But to get there, you need a lot of different things to go your way. And so kind of breaking it down a little bit further, like, hey, the offense needs to hopefully do this. Lenore Sellers needs to get back to being Lenore Sellers. The O-line needs to protect. I think those are more in-depth, hopefully realistic goals that you can have over these final 3 games.
Well, one goal, and I'll take this from Wes's article on Gamecock Central, beat Clemson, right? For whatever this season ends up being at the end of the day, you look across or look up at the team in the upstate and say, you know what? They're not much better than we are. Yeah, they won their game on Saturday against Florida State, and they're 4-5 right now, so they're closer to bowl eligibility than you are, but you still have an ample opportunity to at least end the season with a victory over a rival, which would make you feel maybe just a little bit better for how the season's gone.
It does not change the fact that this season, if they miss a bowl game, would be a failure. But beating Clemson is a nice note to go out on heading into the offseason. So hopefully South Carolina can still get to a bowl game and kind of remedy this season. But at the very least, beating Clemson would be nice.
Yeah, so there's some goals for the rest of the season so far for South Carolina as they try and close it out with 3 straight wins and hopefully finding their way to a bowl game that starts this Saturday with Texas A&M. Mike Elko spoke yesterday and discussed a couple things, including the difficulty of facing a new offensive coordinator for Carolina. We'll let you hear what he had to say coming up next as the extra point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher, we are live from Charwood for their Veterans Day golf outing here on your Tuesday on the Game.
Military ID.
Tyler right here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. As I mentioned, we're out here at Charwood Golf Club for the Veterans Day celebration. You can also celebrate Veterans Day over at Twin Peaks as well, as Twin Peaks honors the brave men and women who have served our country, and you can join them at Twin Peaks today from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. for a free Veterans Day lunch. All veterans and active duty service members enjoy a complimentary lunch meal. It's their way of saying thank you for your service and sacrifice. You can come share a meal and raise a toast to America's heroes. Participation may vary by location, dine-in only, and you do need a valid military ID required as well. That's with our friends over at Twin Peaks. They honor our nation's veterans here on this Veterans Day. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Jack Belcher along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Again, out at Charwood Golf Course for the Veterans Day celebration out here. And I believe they'll be getting out on the range or out on the course here in just a moment. And again, very cold today. So if you're going out there in the course, hopefully you do stay warm. But we're slowly turning our attention to the Texas A&M Aggies. Coming up this weekend as Carolina heads on the road, take on the number 3 team in the country, who's fresh off of their 38-17 win against Missouri this past weekend. And yesterday, Mike Elko spoke to the media, and one thing that he was asked about was the challenge of facing a team with a brand new play caller. Be cut number 8. You know, Jack, as I heard that yesterday from Mike Elko, I almost kind of wondered, would it have been better for Beamer just to have kept it under wraps the entire time and not told him who the new offensive play caller was going to be?
I think you definitely could have done that. I think that would be a little bit beneficial in that look, like A&M wouldn't know who's calling plays, and it would have been a little bit more of a secret, and that way they would have had to guess a little bit. But now you have a little bit of time to look back at what Mike Furry did at Limestone and kind of see what he ran there with his offense. So I don't know how much it'll help A&M that they know Furry's the play caller, but I would imagine it definitely gives them a little bit more time to prep.
See, I think what you could have done is just said, oh, it's going to be kind of a collaborative effort to play call from the entire offense, and that way you would have had people having to go back and find Limestone film for Mike Furry. People would have had gone back and look at Georgia State stuff when it came to Sean Elliott, what Marquell Blackwell was a co-OC when he was at Houston. So going back and looking at that, and I don't know how much of an advantage that would have given South Carolina, but that could have made it just a little bit more trickier for A&M this week when it came to preparing for the Gamecocks.
No, it definitely could have made things a little bit more tricky for A&M, but still, I think it's going to be tricky either way, just because we really don't know what Mike Furry's going to be calling this weekend, just because we think that he might be throwing the ball a little bit more, since that's what he did at Limestone. And we'll hear from him, hopefully. I don't know if we're hearing from him tomorrow or not in media availability. I'm sure we'll get a better idea heading into the day tomorrow if he's going to speak to the media or not. But I will be interested to hear what his kind of stance is on what the play calling may look like, whether they rely more on the passing game, run game, or maybe they just try to keep all that under wraps.
And to kind of Elko's point there a moment ago, the concept of the offense is probably going to be pretty much the same. You can't just come in and install something completely new. So the playbook itself is probably going to be just about the same as it was with Shula. The difference that Furry can make is situational type of calls, right? We were very critical of Mike Shula when it came to running up the middle, on goal to go situations, or some of his calls on fourth down. Like, that is really where Mike Furry can make a big difference here, is what does he call in certain situations throughout the game that can hopefully make this offense more successful than it was under Shula.
Totally. I think that's the main thing that you will see a difference with, is not so much the overall scheme and philosophy, but just the minute differences of, okay, what does Mike Furry call here on 3rd and 5 at South Carolina's 48-yard line versus what did Mike Shula call in those situations? Was it a run up the middle? Was it a screen pass? Or is Mike Furry going to call something completely different, like maybe a play action or a rollout where it's an RPO and Sellers scrambles? Like, maybe we see differences in just some of the play calling in certain situations, maybe.
Yeah. What do we think Furry's first play call is going to be on Saturday? You want to take a guess?
I do think we're going to see some explosivity in that first drive. We'll see how good of a scripted drive play caller he is, because for all of Mike Shula's issues with the play calling, he was a great scripted drive play caller. Like, a lot of those first drives were very solid, leading to touchdowns. But I think for Furry, I think you kind of want to come out swinging right away. That's just the vibe I get with Mike anyway. I think that is probably the type of play caller we see on Saturday is taking some shots downfield because ultimately, what does South Carolina have to lose at this point? I mean,
Yeah.
fired a play caller, fired the O-line coach. The season's kind of close to being in the gutter. You kind of just have to take your chances in this game.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you bring up because as critical as we were of Shula, and rightfully so, those scripted drives are really good, and that's where the majority of their points are being scored is on those opening drive touchdowns and stuff like that. So I think it is something you have to consider going to the weekend. That let's say South Carolina goes out there and isn't great out of the game. Well, maybe Mike Furry's not great when it comes to off the script. We'll have to see what happens later in the game to really get a good feel of how good of an offensive play caller he's going to be. I'd be willing to bet there's going to be at least a couple of shot plays, which Shula had been doing that as of late, to Nick Harbor down the field, right? And Furry being the wide receivers coach, he obviously knows what he has talent-wise in that room. And I imagine he's going to try and maximize the guys in that room as much as possible.
He should. He should. He should definitely be trying to maximize everybody. And the other thing I wonder is, are we going to see a big difference with Lenore's Sellers, right? We talked about it earlier. Let him play a little bit more loose. Let him play his game, his style of football. But I also wonder, is there going to be a difference with him getting the ball out quicker, with throwing the ball away in certain situations where, hey, don't take a sack here, throw the ball out of bounds. If we're seeing differences like that, Tyler, even if South Carolina doesn't look great offensively, but we see progress from Lenore as just a quarterback in general, then I feel like Mike Furry's doing his job at the very least.
Well, are we going to see situations where, look, I'm not expecting the protection to be a lot better up front because, and we'll get into it specifically as the week goes along, this is a really, really good front seven for A&M that's going to be wreaking havoc all day long. So we think we've seen Sellers not have a lot of time to throw. He may have even less coming up this weekend. So are you putting in plays, calling plays where your receivers are operating in the short area of the field? So when that protection breaks down pretty quickly, Sellers isn't looking at guys still running down the field. He's going to have options there to throw to when he needs to get the ball out quicker.
I think we do need to see that. Now, I say they should be taking shots, but at the same time, you do want to see a little bit of that where it's the short passing game where guys are open. They're not running 50 yards downfield to where it's like you just can't even throw to them. Like, it's fine to take deep shots, but at the same time, you need to be able to move the ball. And I'm also curious, Tyler, how much of a run game are we going to see with the running backs? Like the run game has not really been there consistently at all this season for the Gamecocks. Besides Lenore's here and there, and a couple of phase-on touchdowns, and Matt Fuller's been all right. But we haven't seen any consistency in that room to feel like, okay, they're going to rely on the ground and pound to win this game. I feel like we're going to see a lot more passing, but I wonder how much running game is mixed in.
I think it's going to be a situation where you probably have to use your short passing game as your de facto run game. Now, again, a team like Missouri did run the ball pretty well against A&M this past weekend, running for over 200 yards with their two backs there. But we haven't seen enough out of Carolina's rushing offense to think that that's going to be capable of this Saturday. So I do think it's going to be a lot of the short stuff when it comes to the passing game to kind of acts as your running game.
Yeah, and again, Missouri ran for over 200 yards, but that didn't make much of a difference for them in scoring points and beating A&M. So we'll see if South Carolina can figure out that run game, but they're going to have to be able to throw the ball to win.
So speaking of coaching changes, we've got another coach firing in the NFL. We'll talk about that and what happened last night in Monday Night Football as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry live from Charwood Golf Club here in West Columbia for their Veterans Day Golf celebration on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Again, hanging out at Charwood Golf Club for the Veterans Day golf outing, and certainly appreciate them allowing us to be out here. And again, as we are honoring and celebrating those that have served our country. Let's dive into some NFL stuff. Jack, do you like defense? Do you like low-scoring games? Because my goodness, Monday Night Football delivered if that's what you were looking for.
What a doozy of a game between two really good teams at a legendary stadium. You would think it'd be a great game with the Packers and Eagles facing off last night. But as we'll get into, this was far from it. And no, to answer your question, I like seeing offense, as I think most people do.
Yeah, I think the interesting stat of the entire game was the fact that neither quarterback had eclipsed 100 yards through the air until the fourth quarter when Jalen Hurts found Devontae Smith for that long touchdown. I believe that put him over 100 yards right then and there. But it was really kind of 3.5 quarters of almost kind of a stalemate, right? Tied at 0 at halftime. The Eagles take the 3-point lead early there in the second half with a field goal. And yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't quite the offensive explosion I think we were hoping for. Now, again, the Eagles have struggled on offense a lot this year, but their defense is so darn good. The Packers kind of have come and gone when it comes to their offense at times. They seem to play up to good competition and play down to really bad teams. And the Eagles, once again, keeping it rolling by picking up the victory last night in Lambeau.
Yeah, the Eagles have looked great over the last few weeks, 7-2 now. Packers have kind of slipped a little bit. They're 5-3-1. I still think they're very much in this race to win the NFC North, but it's getting a little tighter now because the Lions are right there. The Bears are playing really good football. Bears are 6-3 right now. I mean, how about that? I mean, who would have thought the Bears in year one under Ben Johnson would be doing the things they're doing? So that's a really competitive division. And that said, losing games like this where you lose 10-7 are not ideal by any means.
Yeah, so that wraps up week number 10 of the NFL season. We'll have our NFL top 5, bottom 5 coming up tomorrow, but we've got our second coach firing of the season, and he was one of the guys that went into this year with one of the hottest seats, that being Brian Daboll. After, funny enough, speaking with the Bears, they had a 20-10 lead with about 4 minutes to go on Saturday at Soldier Field. They would blow that and lose to the Bears 24-20. Not the first time they've blown a lead this year. They had that monster comeback they allowed against Denver a couple weeks ago in that game with 19-point fourth quarter, I think it was, for the Denver Broncos. And Brian Daboll was finally given his walking papers yesterday afternoon.
This just feels a bit overdue. You could have really fired him after any of those games you just mentioned, Tyler, that they lost. I mean, some of the games they've lost this year, whether it's to the Cowboys or that game against the Broncos or even the game this past weekend, it's just like, how does Brian Daboll have a job? Because his time as the Giants head coach over the few seasons that he's been there, 20-40 and 1 with a tie in there. I mean, what head coach lasts this long over 61 games with that kind of record? Not many. And I think it's interesting the fact that it's not a surprise that Daboll got fired. What I will say is a surprise, though, is that Joe Shane, the GM that was also him and Daboll both came over from the Buffalo Bills a few years ago, the fact that he didn't get canned and that he's going to be leading the search for the next head coach is a little bit head-scratching because, after all, Daboll's working with what he's got on that team, and it's not like the Giants are this greatly ran organization where they have the best talent out there. The Giants have not been good for the last few years. Ever since they made that playoff appearance and won a playoff game in Minnesota a few years back, they've been awful. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the roster construction.
Yeah, and I feel like Brian Daboll is a classic case of having success too quickly that sets the expectations really high. Because you're right, in that first year they come in, they go 9-7 or 9-7-1, and end up making the playoffs. They beat the Vikings, lose to the Eagles, who would obviously go on to play in the Super Bowl that year. And that kind of sets the expectations really high. Daniel Jones got his big contract extension after that. and it just never lived up to it. In fact, they continued to get worse year by year by year. 6 wins, 3 wins, and only 2 wins through 10 games so far this year. So it just didn't seem like it was going anywhere. And I also think the fact that Daniel Jones is having as much success as he's having right now in Indianapolis with the Colts that might be our number one teams tomorrow in our NFL top 5, bottom 5, probably is a damning indictment on Brian Dable too. Like, hey, wait a minute. You couldn't get a lot out of this guy, and he's going to Indianapolis and looking like the league MVP right now.
I don't want to put all of the blame on Brian Dable for why Daniel Jones is just he was not doing well with the Giants. I think there's also that real case of like, hey, some guys are just not built for New York. And yeah, I think we see that case happen all the time. We see it happen with the Yankees, with the Knicks, any team in New York. There's always that pressure of coming in and succeeding, and especially when you're a first-round pick as a quarterback, like he was with the Giants initially. There's a lot of pressure there, and you get to be the guy that follows Eli Manning. So I don't want to put it all on Dable. I will say he plays a big part in it, but I'm not going to put all of the blame on Brian Dable because at the end of the day, Daniel Jones was just not very good with the Giants at all.
I think it's very interesting when you look at the Giants and how they've been in the past decade. Tom Coughlin's last season was 2015, and they were an organization that obviously under him had won a couple Super Bowls and were thought of as one of the more consistent teams in all the NFL. But really in the past decade, they've still just been trying to find some form of stability. And they're getting set to hire their 5th different head coach since the end of the Tom Coughlin era over a decade ago. And, you know, I don't think we think about them in the same way as like the Jets or the Browns or these teams that have permanently been at the bottom of the NFL, but they're not really that far off from it because they just have not been able to seem to get that head coach hire right to deliver any kind of consistency in the past decade.
You're right. We don't think of the Giants in the same breath necessarily because of what Tom Coughlin did when he was the head coach here, winning 2 Super Bowls. I mean, they have 2 Super Bowls in 07 and 11, so a long time ago, but still, I think a lot of people view them differently because, you know, the Jets haven't won a Super Bowl since Super Bowl III. The Browns have never won a Super Bowl. So, and also you just look at over the last few years of the guys they've hired, like Ben McAdoo did not work out. Pat Shurmur certainly did not work out. Joe Judge only lasted 2 seasons. And again, Brian Dable lasted longer than any of these guys with nearly more than half of the games coached compared to any of these other guys. I mean, Joe Judge coached in 33 games, Pat Shurmur in 32, and McAdoo in 28. So I think Dable was given a little bit of a longer leash, and a lot of that does have to do with the success he had in his first year. But certainly ever since making that playoff appearance, like we said, Tyler, it's just been all downhill. And you see what the Giants have. This might be the best coaching opportunity out there in the NFL heading into the offseason. You have Jackson Dart, a really good quarterback. You're going to be getting Malik Neighbors back next year. Heck, you could have a really high pick in the NFL draft next year. I mean, like, this is a good situation, I think, to be in. And you're also in New York. So I think there's a lot of things to like about this job. But I don't know if I trust Joe Schoen to go out there and hire the next head coach, considering how things went with Dable.
I'm only half joking when I say this. Do you think Shane Beamer calls Brian Dable about being the offensive coordinator?
Listen, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I think Brian Dable may not be a good head coach in the NFL, but he's a really good offensive coordinator. Like, trust me, like, after the season ends with the Bills, if Joe Brady is hired for an NFL gig or a college gig, whatever, if he leaves the Bills, I want Brian Dable back as the OC with the Bills. He did so many good things with this offense when he was here. He was very good at the college game, too, for that 1 year he was at Alabama back in the mid-2010s. I think there's going to be a lot of people calling him to come be their offensive coordinator, but ultimately I do think Dable will stick around in the NFL. Well,
I mean, it would check the box of Beamer liking guys that have had that NFL experience, and you're right, won a national championship with Alabama back in 2017. And I feel like if you're going to go the route of an NFL guy, that would be one I think people here would mostly probably be okay with, compared to some of the other ones that you've hired. So I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but just a thought. I'm like, hey, this guy's been a college offensive coordinator in the past handful of years. Maybe he wants to come back down, though he'll probably stay in the NFL, but we'll see.
And here's the thing. if you're looking to really open up the pocketbook a little bit and go out there and get a highly sought after coordinator, I think you could definitely make the case for Brian Dable as that guy of, hey, go out there, spend whatever money you need to. If he becomes the highest paid coordinator in college football, so be it. You know the success is there with him as a play caller at that level.
Speaking of coaching, we're going to play a little game coming up next. I'm going to give Jack some scenarios, and let's see if he can time manage better than some NFL coaches. That's coming up next to wrap up the hour. It is the Extra Point. It's our Ed and Jack Beltry on your Tuesday, live from Charwood here on the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Points Hour. Head Jack Belcher wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday on the game. Again, live from Charwood Golf Club for the Veterans Day golf outing here that I believe is either just about to get underway or already underway out here on a cold day at Charwood Golf Club. Jack, how good are you at time management when it comes to football, like playing Madden or college football 25 or 26 or whatever? You a pretty good time manager?
You mean like getting down the field and scoring in a certain amount of time? Like
Just situational moments when it comes to managing timeouts, time before the half, into half. Do you feel like you're pretty good when it comes to time situations?
I would say I'm very aware of the time, and I would say my time management in video games. I haven't played in a bit, but I would say I'm decent.
All right, I'm going to give you two different scenarios, and I want to see if you manage this any differently than an NFL head coach. You ready?
All right, let's hear it.
All right, the first situation, it is the second quarter. You have 1 minute and 3 seconds before halftime. You have 2 timeouts. You are leading by 1 point. Your opponent, you sack your opponent to set up a 3rd and 11 with, again, 1 minute and 3 seconds left on the clock, and you have 2 timeouts. What are you going to do in that situation?
Do I get the ball back to start the second half?
That's not important at this moment.
It's not important.
But it's not important at this moment, but you have 1 minute and 3 seconds. You just sacked your opponent, setting up a 3rd and 11. You have 2 timeouts. What are you doing with those timeouts?
I am calling that first timeout to preserve time on the clock and give myself a chance to go down the field and hopefully get a field goal or maybe even a touchdown within that time frame.
That would probably be the thing that 99% of people would do. That is not what the Atlanta Falcons did on Sunday, however, as Raheem Morris, with 2 timeouts after sacking Daniel Jones to set up a 3rd and 11, proceeded to allow the clock to run. Daniel Jones would throw an interception on 3rd down, which the Falcons will get back on their own side of the field, but only about 20 seconds left and not enough time to get themselves into field goal range.
So what I'm hearing is the Falcons definitely need to hire me as their head coach, or some 99.9% of the population. Somebody out there could probably do a better job than Raheem Morris right now.
Probably so, because let's see, when they finally got the ball back, it was, with about 20 seconds left, and then they proceeded, because they got it on their own 27-yard line, they kneeled out to end the half, so you pretty much wasted your timeouts at that point in time.
Don't understand that. I mean, unless you just don't think you're going to be able to go down and score, I just don't see why you're not calling a timeout there, especially with 2 in your back pocket. It's not like you have 1 and you're trying to preserve that to maybe use it on offense when you're trying to go down the field. But you have 2 timeouts. Use one of them.
All right, one more scenario here. This is at the very end of the game. There are 30 seconds left. You have all 3 of your timeouts. You have a 3-point lead. You tackle your opponent to set up a 4th down at your 26-yard line. 30 seconds left and the clock is running. Do you call any of your timeouts while your opponent is trying to rush on their field goal unit?
No, you do not. Definitely don't.
You probably shouldn't, but that's what the Falcons did. They called a timeout, which allowed the Colts to have time to set up their field goal unit to make the game-tying field goal to send the game into overtime. Now, I'm not as upset about this one because, in theory, you're trying to give yourself time to get the ball back and try and drive to win the game yourself in regulation. But I do think if you're allowing your opponent to rush their field goal team on in a fire drill situation, yeah, I know it's 30 seconds. It's not like there's only 15 seconds, but I think you increase the likelihood for them missing it by having to go quickly as opposed to calling the timeout and letting them really kind of take their time on that. And it was a field goal kick to tie the game, not to win. So I'm not as concerned about getting the ball back in regulation because you still have the opportunity to win in overtime.
Like, I understand, like you can't take your timeouts with you, but same time, like you didn't call a timeout earlier in the game and at the end of the first half. So calling a timeout there just feels a little bit strange, in my opinion. Like, especially when when the other team is trying to run a fire drill to get that field goal, and a lot of things can go wrong on that. Like, you could take too much time. And you have 30 seconds, but there are things that could have gone wrong, but instead you call a timeout and allow them to set up to kick the field goal. I don't know what Raheem Morris is doing. I mean, the Falcons are just not playing very good this season at 3-6, but I mean, I don't know how he has a job right now in those scenarios.
Well, if he keeps on managing the time that way, they keep on losing. He'll join Brian Dable in the unemployment line probably before too long.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if that happens. And for your sanity and your sake, I kind of hope that does happen.
Thank you. It's probably been long overdue at this point, but we'll see what happens. But there's some time management situations that I think Jack could have managed better than Raheem Morris did on Sunday against the Colts. So we'll get into the college football playoff top 25 rankings, which are set to come out tonight as we dive into hour number 2. Again, live from Charwood Golf Club for their Veterans Day golf outing here in your Tuesday on the Game. Ty Red here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. I know we haven't had rain in a few days, but it'll be returning before too long. And if you experience a storm, you could end up with standing water underneath your home and your crawl space, which I don't have to remind you is not a good thing. That can lead to a litany of problems with your home. It can invite mold and mildew and even pests like termites into your home, which you absolutely do not want. And it could even affect the air that you breathe in your home because about half the air in your home does come from your crawl space. And that's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconvicts.com. They'll come out and evaluate your crawl space and foundation and make sure you're in good shape to live with it worry-free going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconvicts.com for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. All right, welcome back in. 10 o'clock. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. It's our head Jack Veltri and Chris Clark hanging out with you here on your Tuesday. Again, we are live at Charwood Golf Club for the Veterans Day golf outing. Again, honoring those that serve our country. Certainly appreciate all them that are out here today, and hopefully everybody staying warm. A little cold out there today, Chris. I don't know if I would be golfing in today's weather, but shout out to everybody that is out here partaking today.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering how many people are going to be out here golfing. Great turnout.
Yeah,
a bunch as it
good
turns
turnout
out. So,
as always.
yeah, people out there.
Did you get
See
some onion
people hitting the
sausage?
range. I did get some onion sausage.
How were they?
It was delicious.
Yeah.
I may have eaten 2.
Yeah, those are good.
2 meaning, you get for
Right.
proper onion sausage, you get, flat loaf of bread, piece of onion sausage, mustard, fold up.
Yeah.
Go. 2 of those.
Yeah.
Did you get some?
I have not yet. I need to
yes,
hopefully
you
before
must.
they're gone. I've been managing in here the past hour. Our tripod just kind of fell apart there in that last
I
segment.
see that.
So
It's just leaning.
I am leaning it against the table now. It's my one from college. It's I think it's officially bit the dust.
I'll go take a look too. Now that I'm an expert, but
Yeah.
I'll see if I can fix it.
Well, when the leg is detached, Jack, I think that means it's
doesn't
probably
sound good.
done for.
Yeah, I think you need to. Hey, look, it's the perfect time of year, so ask that special person in your life, whether it's your family, whether it's your wife, Tyler. Ask somebody. Heck, you can ask me if you want. Like, get it for Christmas. Like, get a new tripod for Christmas.
I'm hoping the company will cover this one because that was the one that I had that I wasn't using. So hopefully we'll get the company card to cover that one, but we'll see. Again, hanging out here at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia for the Veterans Day golf outing. We're slowly going to be turning our attention to A&M as the week goes along. We hear from Beamer coming up later on today at 1 o'clock for his usual Tuesday presser. But tonight we get the second reveal of the college football playoff top 25 rankings as we get closer to setting the field for the second edition of the 12-team college football playoff. And guys, we were so close to having a ton of chaos within the top 10 this past weekend. We're Indiana at number 2, as well as number 9 Oregon very nearly went down. Both those teams survived. BYU obviously lost Texas Tech in a 7-8 matchup. So that may be kind of the only real movement we get in the top 10 is how far Texas Tech goes up and how far BYU falls.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been fascinating for, Iowa's a ranked team, right? But how crazy would it have been if Penn State, who had won, 3 games going in and had fired their coach and is probably the most disappointing team in the country, relative to preseason expectations. You might put Clemson up there, but Penn State, for me, probably an even bigger disappointment. For them to have Indiana, who's looked at times like maybe the best team in the country, certainly one of the top few. There's no argument there, I don't think. I mean, they had those guys legitimately on the ropes throughout that game, got the late touchdown, and so Indiana's got the football and has to drive down and make, quite frankly, an incredible play. They would have had one more after that. That was on third down, right, that pass. But, just an iconic, frankly, play, one that's going to be one of those plays that's now etched in college football lore, the kind of play that they had to make. Oregon, and that's what championship teams do.
Sure.
I think Oregon, same thing. We talked about this yesterday. They're also on the ropes. They're going down. They're driving, but they're driving very slowly. They've got 3 timeouts, but you're sitting there going, are they going to take a timeout or are they going to just kind of let this thing keep going? Dante Moore makes that 1 in 1,000 throw, that just right barely over a defender's arm. Again, that's what championship teams do. And when you're making a run, look, we all know it's not easy to make the college football playoff nowadays, but you do have more of a buffer. You can lose a couple games this year. Maybe you can lose 3 games, possibly. We'll see. But you can definitely lose 2 as long as you play a tough schedule and you can go make the thing. You have a buffer, but this is what championship teams do. They find ways to win. And I think those 2 teams proved that over the weekend. Not their best performance by any means. A lot to clean up, but they won. They got it done.
Yeah, no, definitely. You look at that game against Penn State with Indiana. you're watching that and you're like, all right, all Penn State's got to do here is just get another first down, and they're going to be able to probably run out the clock. Indiana, I think, maybe had a timeout at the time, maybe even no timeouts. I think they had one left in the back pocket. But point is, I mean, you're hitting about the 2-minute timeout there, and it's like, hey, one more first down will do it. But when you're not able to get that first down, as Penn State didn't in that situation, it's like, all right, you're up in this situation. You trust your defense, which has come through for most of the day, but you're still giving Indiana, Fernando Mendoza, those guys on offense so much time left in the clock. And give a lot of credit to Indiana. I mean, like you said, Chris, it takes a championship level of football to go down the field and in Indiana's case, score a touchdown to win the game. I mean, what a great catch by Omar Cooper there. But as we talked about yesterday, Tyler, I mean, what a great throw by Fernando Mendoza to hit that tight window, give Cooper the little bit of space to make that catch, and then ultimately complete the play with that toe tap. That was just, I mean, one of the best catches I think we've seen in recent memory. That's going to probably, I would imagine, go down as Mendoza's Heisman moment. Maybe the Heisman moment in this entire Heisman Trophy race right now.
Yeah, again, one of the best moments of the entire season, and obviously keeps Indiana's undefeated streak alive up to this point. I really, looking at the top five for tonight, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia, I wouldn't expect any of those things to change. Could you maybe make a case that A&M could jump Indiana because their win this past weekend against a Missouri team was more impressive? Maybe. I wouldn't bet on that, but that's kind of the only real movement I could maybe see happening in the top five, which, again, this is all going to work itself out at the end of the day because these teams are going to start playing each other, if not in the regular season and conference championships. But that's kind of the only thing I think really shifting at the top.
Yeah, and even if that happens, it's not like it's some seismic move. It really doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. Now eventually, I mean, college football playoff rankings do eventually mean something. Of course, your seeding and all that stuff, but it's nothing to get all bent out of shape about. I mean, if Texas, I'm sure people in College Station are like, we deserve to be number 2, or they might say we deserve to be number 1. And that might be true, actually. I mean, they're really, really good, but so are Ohio State, so are Indiana. I mean, Indiana did have, a close call against Penn State, who was not a good team from a record standpoint, but it was also on the road. So, and they did win the game. So, yeah, I wouldn't expect a huge shakeup. We had some near misses or near hits, depending on how you want to look at it, in terms of shaking up the top 10, but not to be.
Both these teams are A&M and Indiana are both so good. And honestly, you can make the case that they both deserve to be number 1 in some respects, but Ohio State's still going to be number 1, I would imagine, after the rankings come out tonight. I think you could make a case that A&M could leapfrog Indiana, but like Chris said, it really does not matter. And you look at A&M's resume and what they've got. They have the win in South Bend over a top 10 Notre Dame team. And look at Indiana. Indiana might have the more impressive win of anybody in college football, going to Oregon and winning that game by 10-plus points. I mean, that's a really good win right there. Not to mention how they door-stomped Illinois 63-10 when Illinois was a top 10 team in the country. I know now, looking at it, Illinois is a 3-loss team, and that's still a very, very good win, but it doesn't hold exactly the same weight as when they did beat them. I think you could say the same thing for A&M, because they beat a ranked LSU team. They beat a ranked Missouri team. Neither of those teams are going to be ranked this week, but that's not necessarily A&M's fault by any means that those teams fell out of the rankings. It's just those wins don't look as impressive now, like the Notre Dame win still holds up a lot. So I don't think we're going to see any movement in the top 3. It doesn't matter right now, and it probably won't make it might make a difference at the end of the year when you come down to looking at what the playoff bracket's going to look like, because these teams will still get those first-round buys. But the second-round matchups are going to be critical when you look at, okay, who's the 1 seed, who's the 4 seed, because you might want to be a lower seed depending on who the other teams are in the field.
I think the biggest debate for tonight is going to be how far BYU falls. Of course, they were number 7, undefeated going into this past weekend. They lose pretty significantly to Texas Tech. on the road there, 29 to 7. And again, I think there's a pathway for the Big 12 to get 2 teams in that would involve BYU winning a revenge game in the conference championship coming up here in a couple weeks. But I'm interested to see how much the committee dings them, because if you view them as the number 7 team in the country, how far can one loss truly drop them when you have these new metrics of weighing strength of schedule and strength of record and all those kind of things? I'd be willing to think they're probably going to fall somewhere around like 10th or 11th, but also very important in terms of the Big 12 and potentially getting more than one team in the college football playoff with how BYU shakes out in tonight's rankings.
Maybe you got this on the docket to talk about, Tyler, but since you brought up number of teams each conference can get in, ACC looking like
a one bidder.
One bidder. Greg Sakey wants all 16 teams in from the SEC, apparently. Just kidding, but what did he say, 8 or 9?
Something that I didn't know if that quote was real
that
or
quote
not.
Real?
I saw the tweet about it, but I didn't see the actual clip. And it's like,
you never know now.
Half of me believes
trying to verify it.
Half of me believes it's fake, but Athlete also believes I could see him saying something like that.
But he said similar stuff like that.
He has.
I don't know if he's gone as high as 8. So, but Greg Sankey does want lots of SEC teams, and
that's his job.
Point is, they in the Big 10 are viewed as the top 2. The Big 2. They'll probably get the most teams. These other ones, to your point, fighting to, hey, can we get more than one in the college football playoffs? So that'll be interesting to keep tracking here as we go.
I think the thing with BYU is, how does the committee view the loss that they just suffered, right? They were down 26-0 in this game before eventually getting on the board. Texas Tech dominated this game, 129-7. Now, granted, it was in Lubbock, so you got to take that into consideration, that it was tough to play on the road. You're facing a top 10 team at their place. And this BYU team has been very good all year before that game. Undefeated heading into it. So I don't think you can necessarily drop BYU more than, like Tyler said. I think somewhere probably around that 10-11 range would be ideal, because you also had some other teams lose this past weekend. Virginia went down. Louisville went down. You had Iowa lose, Missouri, Washington. There's a lot of teams that lost this past weekend. So I think that helps BYU's case of they're not going to plummet all the way down like 10 spots. But I think you do have to ding them a little bit in that, yes, they're now only a one-loss team, but they lost 29-7. You got to give them a little bit of a penalty. So probably dropping them, I would say 3, 4. At max, I would say 5 spots would probably be about where I could see them dropping this tonight.
Well, with BYU losing, that means there's only 3 undefeated teams left in college football, and they're sitting 1 through 3 in the rankings as of right now. Who can stay unbeaten the longest? We'll debate that coming up next. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling Heating. Tyler Head, Jack Beltry, and Chris Clark live from Charwood Golf Club here in West Columbia for the Veterans Day golf celebration here near Tuesday on the game.
All right, everyone, let's tell you about one of our great partners here on the game. You know who they are. Integrated Media. Michael, Nathan, their team can come out to your home or your business even and do anything that you may need from an audio-visual standpoint. I've trusted them to come out to my home multiple times. So has Wes Mitchell. They've helped us with a variety of projects, whether it's something as simple as mounting a new television. They can source the equipment for you. They can mount it for you. They can clean up, hide all those ugly wires so that you look great in your home. They fix Wes's Wi-Fi, come out and put all my old video game systems on a switcher. Again, getting all those old cords out of the way, making sure you don't have to drag them out of the closet anytime you want the kids to play them. They can do all that for you and so much more. Clean up your Wi-Fi signal, trick out that man cave you've always wanted, fit that outdoor patio and fire pit area, and make sure that everything's running in tip-top shape. One-stop shop for all your tech needs, integratedmediainc.com or 803-948-8327.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Saturday, Jack Veltri and Chris Clark along with you here on your Tuesday, again live at Charwood Golf Club for their Veterans Day golf outing. I just poked my head outside. I believe it is about to get started here in a couple moments. Everybody kind of gathering outside, ready to get things rolling. Also, reminder tonight, women's basketball in action, taking on Clemson. Pregame coverage starting at 5:30. Tip is at 6. As Don's crew looks to move to 3-0 and take down the rival there from the upstate. And we'll talk about that game tomorrow and get you set for men's basketball as they prepare for their third game against Presbyterian tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Pregame coverage starting at 6:30 right here on the game as well. We're talking about the college football playoff top 25 rankings set to come out for the second edition of 2025 coming up tonight. Again, don't really expect much of a change at the top with Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M all remaining undefeated this past weekend. And we talk so much about the parity in college football now to, in the BCS era, the 14 playoff era, not really surprising when teams got this team to the season. We had 3, 4, sometimes 5 teams still undefeated. But in today's world of college football, a little bit different. So the question becomes, and I know Indiana and Ohio State would have to play each other in the Big Ten championship game coming up here in a couple weeks, but who has the potential to stay undefeated the longest between the three teams at the top of the college football rankings?
Well, I think a good starting point is let's look at who they have coming up.
Yep.
So they're just the regular season games. UCLA, right, which Indiana has already thoroughly destroyed.
Yep.
But to start with Ohio State, they've got UCLA and then Rutgers, both at home. Then they've got Michigan in the big game.
A game
Ann
they've not
Arbor.
won since 2019, by the way.
And how things change. Remember that game last year?
Crazy.
Let's run Ryan Day out.
Hmm
He's done.
He would look like a zombie on the
He's
field
cooked.
after the game.
He is totally cooked. And then they won the Natty.
It still bothers a lot of Ohio State fans, though,
Yes.
that they lost that game.
Can you imagine complaining about winning the Natty? Well, we lost the rivalry game. I mean, I get it, right?
It
you
just
won the
means
Natty.
more.
It does. So, I think you could put Ohio State's chances at really, really good. Like
Sure.
if I'm a betting man,
Sure.
I've got them winning out. Okay. Now, you look at Indiana. They've got 2 more games coming up in the regular season. They play Wisconsin, who, by the way, just scored their first Big Ten win somehow. And then they play at Purdue, who's not very good. On paper, certainly you favor Indiana in those games. They did just struggle with a Penn State team that's talented, but has not been very good this year. Then you got Texas A&M, of course. They've got the Gamecocks this weekend. They also play Samford, who's now, in addition to being Samford, no disrespect, they fired their coach.
Yep.
And then they play Texas, who's been a bizarre up and down team this year. They'll be favored in all those games, rightfully so. If you make me pick, I still go Ohio State.
Okay.
Even with that Michigan, you're just like, that's sometimes it's a weird game.
Sure.
They hadn't won it in a while. But even over Indiana, I still go Ohio State.
Jack, what about you?
I'm kind of Chris. You laid it all up there perfectly, but I am surprised you're going Ohio State because honestly, I think all these teams very well could easily go undefeated the rest of the way. But Indiana's got the easiest path to do so. I know Wisconsin. Was that?
No, go ahead.
That's what they do. Yep.
Okay. I mean, I know Wisconsin just won a game this past weekend with Luke Fickell, and the board there is going to keep him for next year and give him more resources. But I mean, Indiana's got the easiest schedule the rest of the way. I mean, Wisconsin and then at Purdue, you should win both those games, no problem. I mean, it's not just that they got to play Michigan to end the year. They got to go to the Big House. That could be tricky. And it's not like Michigan's a bad team by any means. I mean, that could definitely be one that, if they don't play well, could sneak up on them. And Texas A&M, I mean, should beat South Carolina, should beat Samford. You got to go to Austin at the end of the year. That could be tricky, guys. When you look at the ESPN FPI, which does a great job of breaking down all the different percentages and projections on how the rest of the season is going to go, Ohio State has a 46.5% chance to win out. Indiana has a 44.3% chance to win out. And then you have Texas A&M with a 17% chance to win out. Now, I'm not sure if that's just in regards to winning the rest of the games on the regular season schedule. I feel like that Indiana percentage is a little bit low considering the 2 teams they have to play. But if you're asking me, the one team I think that is definitely unequivocally going to go undefeated in the regular season, I have a hard time not picking Indiana. I mean, they have the easiest schedule the rest of the way and don't have to play on the road against a top 25 opponent.
Well, and look, all 3 of these teams could end up closing out the regular season 12-0, and then Ohio State and Indiana would play each other in the Big Ten championship game coming up in Indianapolis in a couple weeks. And if things continue the way they are, A&M would be playing Alabama in the SEC championship. So in terms of like who could stay undefeated the longest, I think our belief in Ohio State is more of they've been there and done that before. Indiana is still very new to the party, as great of a coach as Kurt Cignetti seems to be, and A&M. I think we're still waiting for A&M to trip over themselves, right? Because the 8-4 jokes write themselves, though they can't go 8-4. They can't go 8-4 this year, but it's like we're waiting for that inevitable. Okay, there's the old A&M that we've known for so many years, and I give a lot of respect to Mike Elko because he gets asked about it like every single week. Like, hey, aren't you afraid you guys are going to fall on your face? He's like, I don't care about history. This is a different kind of team, and it definitely is. I think that belief of like we've seen Ohio State do this before leads to more belief that they're in the best position to do that. And again, they're a phenomenal roster, phenomenal team, and they've been blowing just about everybody out so far this year. So I think if I had to take a guess on who I would pick to go the furthest like you guys, I'd probably go with Ohio State too.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, and I think it depends. Are we talking about winning out regular season or winning out?
Just going undefeated as long as possible.
Right.
Okay.
Or are we counting a conference title game, right? Which, as of right now, as you said, Tyler, Ohio State, Indiana. I mean, if we're including that, then certainly I go Ohio State. I just get the sense that, like, if you're going to pick, I do think those FPI metrics that you mentioned, Jack, are interesting too. I mean, I just feel like Ohio State is a little better right now. I feel like they're the best team in the country right now, the most complete team in the country right now. And so even though Indiana's got just a couple games left, on the schedule, and they are easier because they don't have to go to Ann Arbor and play Michigan, I still just get the sense that, like, they might could trip up once, and Indiana's good enough to go win a title.
Yeah.
They're good enough to get, not only make the college football playoff, probably good enough to go win the thing, especially this year. I mean, if you're sitting there going, who's the favorite to go win the national championship, you could pick a team or two. Maybe for you it's Ohio State, maybe for somebody's A&M, maybe for somebody's Indiana, Oregon, whoever it may be. But I mean, just week to week, as we've seen, it's so tough. If you're not losing, a lot of times you're having a really close call. Look how many fourth quarter games South Carolina's been in, sitting here with 3 wins.
Sure.
They've had an opportunity to take down multiple ranked, really good teams in the fourth quarter. They just haven't been on the right side of that. These games nowadays, when you see a blowout, it's almost jarring, to see one because of how close the competition is.
So if we're going down the route of winning out, who can remain unbeaten the longest and not just in the regular season, regular season, I'm going to Indiana just because of the schedule. But if we're talking about long term, going through conference championship weekend and into the playoff, I think Ohio State is probably the right pick. But I'm going to go against the right pick. I think Indiana, again, has the easy schedule to end the regular season, and they're a good football team. I mean, guys, they went on the road to Oregon and won. They blew out Illinois. They won a tough game against Penn State in Happy Valley, which is always a tough place to go play. And they've got, I think, honestly, the best quarterback in the country right now. I mean, I know Ohio State's got all the gadgets and gizmos and all the weapons that you could want, plus Julian Sane. But I really like what Fernando Mendoza is doing with this team. And I just think Kurt Cignetti's a really good coach and has those guys going. So I would go with Indiana to probably continue to remain unbeaten the longest.
Well, we'll see. Again, they narrowly escaped defeat this past weekend against Penn State, and we'll see how they close out the regular season. If they and Ohio State are destined to meet each other as 12-0 teams coming up here in a couple weeks at the Big Ten Championship game. We'll continue on here from Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. I believe we're going to talk to Rock Lucas for a moment. Coming up on the other side, we'll also get to the oddities of college football as well to continue on with the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating here on your Tuesday on the Game.
All right, everyone, let's tell you about our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating. Great time to give them a call, as I'm sure you're probably, if you haven't turned your heat on yet at your home or business, you are getting very close. I can give you a great example about how Krantz Cooling helped me and my family recently. As soon as we cut our heat on downstairs, boom, there was a problem. Buzzing noise, fans not running, so no heat. Pretty cold down there. So I hit up Justin Krantz, general manager. His helpful team got out there the same day, were able to get me all situated, showed me exactly what was wrong, made the repair, back up and running. Family's happy. KrantzCooling.com, Krantz, cooling with a K, KrantzCooling.com. Since 1983, they've been helping families and businesses around the Midlands. Locally owned, family-operated business. You can trust them. They operate with honesty and integrity. I can tell you for sure, firsthand, 803-672-3224 or KrantzCooling.com. Give them a call. Check them out today.
Who says bullying? All right, welcome back in. Garnet Trust Tower presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Head, Chris Clark, Jack Veltri along with you here on your Tuesday on the game at Charwood Golf Club here in West Columbia. Take a quick little detour over to the world of the NBA as Shams Charania reporting the Dallas Mavericks getting set to fire their GM Nico Harrison less than a year after the now infamous Luka Doncic's trade to the Los Angeles Lakers. I know last night more chants were ringing out through. Is it still the American Airlines Arena that they play at? Is the name changed on that?
I think they changed the name, maybe.
Either way, wherever they play at now, the Fire Nico chants were very loud and proud as they have been since that trade happened. And Mavericks not off to a great start, losing the Bucks last night, 116-114, and seems like finally the fans will get what they've been calling for the past 9 months, and Nico Harrison being fired as their GM.
That'll do it.
They will.
That'll do it. I mean, the only way that this was survivable was to like immediately reap some kind of benefit that
Sure.
was not going to be reaped.
Now they did benefit from getting the lottery and being able to draft Cooper Flagg, but that's not
really,
going to net you the immediate results that hanging on to Luka probably could have.
But that's more so luck than anything, I would say, compared to. I mean, the lottery is literally just hopefully your ball gets picked and that'll do it. But I mean, look, trading Luka was crazy at the time, and I think everyone still views it as insane now. I mean, just look at the things that Luka's doing with the Lakers. I mean, once LeBron James gets healthy here, I can imagine those two are going to be leading a good charge to try and go win a title here this season. While, I mean, the Mavericks, look, they got Cooper Flag, and they've got some nice pieces on their team with Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, but a lot of it comes down to those guys staying healthy, and we know with their history that has not really been the case.
Well, best luck to Nico and whatever his next venture is going to be, because it sounds like his days as a GM with the Mavericks are truly over at this point in time. We'll dive into the oddities of college football now. What weird things happened over the course of the weekend? You may have missed this one because it was late on Friday night. Northwestern taking on Southern Cal, and I love a good bit of trickery. When you can roll out a backup quarterback wearing a punter's number and pull off a successful fake punt, which is exactly what the Trojans did on Saturday. Now, I believe this backup quarterback actually wears the number 80, which is asinine, and I don't agree with that at all. It's not one of those situations where he had to put on a jersey before the punt, and they don't have nameplates on the back of their uniform, so you can't really tell who's who at the end of the day. But, hey, hat tip to Lincoln Riley for thinking outside the box on that one.
It confused everybody, even the announcers. Wasn't one of the announcers related to knew somebody
I think
who was
you're
related
right.
to Heward? Yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm going to catch flack about this. So, and they, of course, they came out later. I mean, kudos to the opposing coach. He was like, look, that's our fault.
Got to scout everything.
He's like, we should have known that. But there was, of course, controversy as to whether or not that should have been allowed in the game, which the result was no, should not have been allowed.
Listen, if they don't call it on the field at the moment, just like Isaiah Satania's touchdown for Oklahoma against Auburn earlier on this year, then you get away with it because they can't retroactively go say, hey, we're actually going to take that touchdown on the board. Oh, by the way, the other team now wins. It doesn't work that way.
I do think it's a little bit Bush League to do something like that, but it's more so kudos to Lincoln Riley for drawing that up. And look, if that is the guy's actual number, then by all means, that's fine. But if it requires switching a jersey, then I think that's a bit much. And the refs should have caught that. But, in that moment they didn't. And nothing really you can do about it now.
Yeah, this is something we've actually seen quite a bit. Remember when, not from the jersey number swap there, but remember South Florida against Boise State in week number 1 where they did the thing. They had the quarterback out there that I guess nobody noticed until it was too late. So, I mean, props to them. If you can get away with it, do it.
Yeah, might as well.
Let's see. Continuing on here. Speaking of punters, by the way, I know Elijah mentioned this on their show yesterday. Wisconsin won their first Big Ten game of the year against a ranked Washington team. And they were led in passing by their punter, Sam West. 1 completion for 24 yards. He had half of the team's totals through the air on Saturday. You win however you can win.
I looked at this box score the other day and it broke me. I was just so confused. It was a perfect game. I mean, yeah, I don't even know what to say about it. I mean, you go up and down that entire. I mean, first of all, remember there was a game where South Carolina played Texas A&M several years ago, and Joe Charlton, I think, was the leading rusher. He was a punter.
Yeah.
Like a 8-yard run or something on, everybody else was in the minus. Now, South Carolina, of course, as you would expect with a weird stat like that, lost that game. Of course, I mean, it's just so jarring. Like you're looking at the ESPN stats, passing yards. Let's see what Williams went for Washington. 20 of 32. Wait, why does this say PK as their leader in passing yards? I mean, just a super weird game. I mean, Wisconsin was 2 of 14 on third down. They only had 205 yards. They averaged 2.7 yards per pass. They ran the ball okay. They had 157 rushing yards, just 3.3 a carry. Didn't turn the football over. That was maybe the biggest thing in the game. Washington, outgained them, but only had 251 yards, turned the ball over twice. Wisconsin didn't. One of the weirdest games you're going to see.
For sure.
And for Wisconsin, Cooper Catalano, 19 tackles in the game. Wow. Weird box score.
Yeah, I don't even know how you win a football game like that. Again, the 2 turnovers definitely helping that, but you go 2 of 14 on third downs, and you went 2 of 3 on fourth down, so that definitely helped a bit. But yeah, just one of the weirder box scores you'll see, just because it's not like Wisconsin. You would think when they don't throw the football a ton and get a ton of yardage in that way, it's probably they probably went for over 200 yards on the ground. I mean, they went for 150, but definitely kind of weird how they won that game. Then again, it was 13-10.
Real quick for reference, the Southern Cal backup quarterback is actually number 7, Sam Heward. I guess he did put on a number 80 jersey prior to that play, but it didn't look like one of those oversized ones that they kind of throw on. It did look like it actually fit him well, so it's believable that would have been his number, but it's not. Speaking of teams getting outgamed by a lot and still finding a way to win, Sam Houston State won their first game of the entire season. Here's the numbers for you. They played Oregon State. Oregon State had 474 yards of offense. Sam Houston State had 157. The biggest key, as it often is in games like this, the Beavers turned the ball over 3 times. Sam Houston State only turned it over 1 time. And that was the difference. Shout out to the Bearcats for their first win of the year in the most absurd way possible.
I mean, you just don't waltz in and roll the ball out against the Bearcats with the
No,
K.
you do not. No, you do not.
Bearcats with the K.
Is there a story behind that?
I
Do we
don't
know why they're the Cats with the K?
Rolled into Corvallis and won.
I guess.
I saw a tweet. You know how nowadays you can't tell, like we were talking about the Greg Sankey quote earlier, you can't tell what tweet is real. I saw a tweet that they had fired their interim coach too and
Yes.
replaced him with the second interim after the game. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Just very strange. This reading this box score. This is definitely weirder than reading the Northwestern Wisconsin one. I mean, this is just I don't even know how you win a football game like this. I mean, it's insane.
I have a Tyler. Do you have another oddity?
Did you have something you want to throw in there?
It's semi-odd,
Sure.
but I would like to throw it in. It's more of a shout out, but
Okay.
also odd to me.
Okay.
7th year quarterback for UConn,
You have my attention.
Joe Fignano. Okay, our guy Joey, again 7th year for a UConn team that's been really good under Jim Moore Jr.
Quietly, and they're
Quietly.
they're
Just beat
independent,
Duke.
so they're not fighting for any kind of conference
Done
race.
a really good job. Might be a candidate to step up this year. Joe Fignano, their starting quarterback, 68.8% completions, 2,840 yards, 25 touchdowns, and no interceptions.
His first season in college football was at Maine back in 2019.
He was a walk-on at Maine. Came in, had a really good season for them, and he's still going. I don't know how or why, but Jim Moore is certainly happy that he's still going.
I was still in college in 2019.
His past 2 years, 45 touchdowns to just 4 picks.
That's crazy.
The definition of efficient. I think that qualifies as odd because you don't see a quarterback throw the ball 343 times for 2,840 yards and no picks. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So shout out to him.
I have to do some investigation on how many turnover-worthy plays he's had and see how efficient
Last
he really
week
is.
he threw the ball and it was picked off on a 2-point conversion, which does not count as a pick.
No, it does not. That does
So,
not count.
Doesn't count, just like sacks. So he's still safe. The streak lives on. Shout out to Joey Fignano.
I mean, with
Any
him,
thoughts, Jack?
yeah, I mean, how is he? I'm just like looking at it because he went to Maine for 4 years. How does he have any eligibility, let alone to play?
We don't know.
At UConn. This guy's played basically 2 full college careers, and I hope he's been able. I hope he's been able to get a few degrees out of it.
As you better be a doctor at this point in time. But yeah, there's your oddities of college football. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating live here at Charwood Golf Club for the Veterans Day celebration on your Tuesday on the Game. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating, Powderhead, Jack Beltry, Chris Clark wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday. Believe we're off and running with the golf outing. I just saw all the carts go up the path that way, so I believe everybody's taken off for a chilly day out on the golf course, but fun day nonetheless. We're out here honoring Veterans Day at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. For reference, by the way, 6 turnover-worthy plays for Joe Fagnano this season, but no turnovers.
No turnovers.
Outside of on the 2-point conversion, which does not count. That's it's kind of a throwaway there. But, yeah, 22 touchdowns, no picks. Good for him.
Really good.
Yep, absolutely. So as we wrap up the hour here, wanted to I scroll through Twitter way too much throughout the day, but I often come across some pretty interesting stuff, especially when it comes to coach quotes, because my algorithm now just gives me a lot of them throughout the day that I try and use for the show. And this one was the most perplexing one I've heard in a while. Pitt is playing host to Notre Dame this weekend. College game day will be out there. Obviously a big deal. Pitt, ranked as of right now, trying to put themselves into position to make the ACC championship game and possibly make the college football playoff. Head coach Pat Narduzzi was asked about how important this game against Notre Dame was and gave an interesting answer. So for reference, Pittsburgh is in that kind of 5-way battle to make the ACC championship game as they're sitting 5-1 in conference play as right now. Their non-conference loss to West Virginia, not really holding that against them. They still got to play Georgia Tech and Miami, 2 ranked teams to close out the regular season. So yes, those 2 games are technically more important than Notre Dame this weekend, but I've never heard a coach before a game say, I'd rather get beat 110-0 and take the last 2 games after that. That is an interesting tactic.
Yeah, I mean, what now? Technically, is he correct? In that they could lose this game.
They could, because to them rankings don't matter.
Yes,
like the ACC, it's probably gonna be a 1-bid league, so you just got to get to the conference championship and win it, and you're in essentially.
Yes. You probably feel like because they are a 1-bid league, you're not sitting there going, okay, we need every win that we can, because unless you win your conference championship as an ACC participant, you're probably getting left out, particularly with the resume that they already have with the non-con loss to West Virginia, which right now just is not what you would call a quality loss.
Right.
West Virginia has not been a very good team. Regardless, they're going to have to go out and win the next 2. So, technically, is he correct? But, man, he took it pretty far there, right?
Jack,
it doesn't even matter.
Jack, if you're playing for Pat Narduzzi and you hear your coach say that, how motivated are you for this weekend?
It's very strange because I don't think I've ever heard a coach say that, for one. I get what he's saying in that this game really doesn't matter on the schedule in terms of if they lose it, okay, they're still alive in the ACC because all they would have to do is win at Georgia Tech and then win against Miami to close out the year. But, guys, I mean, they're still very much mathematically alive for a at-large bid because, I mean, look, if they win this weekend – if they win these next 3 games, that's 3 ranked wins right there in the top 25 that not every team would have. I mean, a win over Notre Dame, a win at Tech, and a win over Miami. Those are 3 high-quality wins. So I disagree with Narduzzi kind of just going out here and saying, hey, look, if we lose 100-0 or whatever, it's okay. I don't think a player would want to hear that because then you probably think, oh, well, my coach doesn't think we have a chance this weekend. So it's a weird thing to say. I get what he means, but this game should still have a lot of impact. Just because College game day is going there. I mean, this is a huge game for Pitt guys to kind of get themselves a little bit more on the map this season.
Maybe he just plays the backups and gets everybody healthy for next week against Georgia Tech and just roll over and who cares?
This one will be fascinating to me. Cade Bell, the offensive coordinator at Pitt, has been a huge catalyst for their success this year.
Yep.
Pat Narduzzi, he's had such an odd tenure at Pitt. He's nailed a couple of his – remember when they brought in Matt Canada that year?
Yep.
And it really took off. And then Matt Canada is apparently an interesting guy, and so is Pat Narduzzi, and it just kind of didn't work, and eventually they parted ways. Matt Canada had a weird tenure with the Steelers in the NFL, right? But he's hit on Cade Bell this year because he's really revitalized over the past couple years the Pitt offense. Fascinated to see them play Notre Dame, where Marcus Freeman has done a really good job there, very involved with their defense. Can Cade Bell put forth a really good performance, even though Pat Narduzzi doesn't care about winning or losing?
Right.
Can he put together a really good performance? I think that could, as you said, Jack, put them even more on the map and have people paying even more attention to Pitt.
No, you're right.
Yep.
I mean, look, this is a game that you may not look at the ACC as more than a one bid league, but I'll tell you what. I mean, I would be hard pressed to leave a team like Pitt out if they were, So to win these final 3 games,
Yeah. All right, Jack. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Gamecock
All right.
Central Takeover Hour coming up next as your Tuesday continues here on the game.
All right, everyone, as we roll into the next hour, let's tell you about our friends over at Classic Roofing, classicroofingsc.com, residential and commercial roofers, reliable GAF certified roofers. Only about 7% of roofers nationwide even have that certification. So, you know, when you work with the folks over at Classic Roofing, Joe Reeder and Max Sawyer, you're going to get great service and you're going to get local service. Roof inspections, roof installations, replacements, and repairs. All roofs carefully worked on by a group of top industry professionals that have the necessary skills and the technical know-how. Going to deliver outstanding performance and curb appeal to your property, all while staying within your budget and timeline. Again, they can help you with residential and commercial roofing. No dishonesty, no gimmicks, no headaches, and no problems. Just great service from Classic Roofing. 803-590-7870 or classicroofingsc.com.
11 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris. We're live at Golf Club here in West Columbia. It is their Veterans Day golf outing. Everybody out there on the course taking in. Like, it's a beautiful day outside, like sunshine and no clouds in the sky. It's just really cold. So hopefully everybody's bundled up and can enjoy a great day of golf as we honor the heroes of America that do serve our country here on this Veterans Day, and kind of get things back to normal today when it comes to a game week. Beamer will speak coming up in 2 hours at 1 o'clock. We'll have that for you right here on the game as usual during the halftime show, and we obviously turn the attention to Texas A&M this upcoming weekend. Elko spoke yesterday, but I imagine he's going to be asked a lot of questions about A, Mike Furry is your new offensive play caller, and B, his thoughts on who he's going to hire as OC, though, as we've talked about, that's a decision that's not going to come until likely after the season. So I'm sure he's going to kind of not go too deep into detail on those, but a lot of conversation as we've had in the past week about the offensive coordinator spot for South Carolina going forward.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he answers it. We're either way, we're not going to get a lot.
Sure.
I think we're going to get one of two things. It's going to be, hey, not really the time to talk about that. Focused on Texas A&M.
Actually, you know what? Here's my list of candidates.
Yeah.
Go ahead and read it.
Yeah, here's who I've interviewed. Here's where things stand. I think realistically, I mean, if I had to pick, we'll obviously see in a couple hours, I think he'll probably kind of split the difference and say, hey, you know, I'm working through it. I'm not sure if he'll say I'm talking to some guys because –
you gotta be careful.
Well, you got to be careful, but also how much time is there realistically for that right now? Guys are still in the season. We know that he's going to be, you know, probably primarily talking to guys who are already at the college level, is the sense I get. And so those guys are still locked in their seasons. This is expected to be a postseason hire for that reason. You're not going to get a new OC announcement Monday, you know, but there's no expectation that that's going to happen. So I think he'll give kind of a very generalized update on where things stand, but you can't expect that we're going to get a lot of information on it right now.
I don't know. Maybe your new OC just got fired by the Giants yesterday. He's got a lot of time.
Brian Dable did a good job at Alabama.
Or a national championship.
Here's what
that'd be a guy with NFL ties.
Yes,
that check Beamer's boxes.
Well, you know, and I think the by the way, I don't know for sure. But the sense I get in trying to piece together some information about this search, I mean, most of the names that I've heard, if not all of them, have been at the college level in terms of, you know, what's being looked at. Now, we'll see. But the point of me saying that is I do think eventually I think this time, if I was a betting man, I think he goes away from not that the guy will have never coached for an NFL team, but I think you see somebody who's plucked from the current college ranks. I'd be mildly surprised if it were something else. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe Brian Dable coaches at a college program next year, but I think he's probably very quickly going to have another OC job in the NFL if he wants it.
Yeah. I was half kidding when I said that, but
yes,
again, it would check the box of this guy's got a lot of NFL experience and probably one that I think people could actually legitimately get excited about. But again, I don't think they're going to end up going down that route. But yeah, Beamer's going to answer a lot of questions today, or at least be asked a lot of questions about the offensive coordinator. Jack brought up this question earlier as well, because we're going to hear from players, and he said he put in for Sellers and Harbor, so we'll see who they end up putting out there to talk to the media today. But what do those guys think about the coordinator change? And again, you know, I think when we heard from those guys throughout the season, they talked about their faith and trust in Shula. He's obviously gone now. What's the belief in Mike Furry? What do they like about him as a coach, and what can he bring to the table as an offensive coordinator? That's going to be some things I'm interested in hearing later on today that we'll obviously get to really dive into tomorrow when we do have some of those answers.
Here's the thing about coordinators, I feel like, or coaches in general. You earn or you get a certain amount of respect if you're the coordinator based on, you know, a guy comes in, or if you're Sellers and you've had Shula in the room all last year. And so very clearly they had a great working relationship last year. They were on the same page. Now you're doing a different role than obviously being the guy who has to scheme it up, game plan it up, call the plays on Saturday, etc. So for one, the guys aren't going to go in there preseason and be like, oh, I got no faith. You know what I'm saying? It's just not going to happen. But I would say generally, as long as it seems like the ideas are good, and I'm sure on the board, none of these OCs are dumb, man. If you're an SEC offensive coordinator, you know football. Like they would blow our minds, I'm sure, if you just said, hey, explain this concept and show what it looks like against this coverage, and that coverage. We like to say that, fans like to say they're stupid, but they're not. But so I think you have that trust at the beginning. Now, the longer you go when things aren't going well, I think the harder it is as a coordinator to keep that confidence from your guys, keep that trust from your guys. And it doesn't mean the guys don't still like you as a person, but these guys want to excel, they want to win, they want the offense to do well. So I do think as that it kind of deteriorates as it goes along. So it really, in my opinion, got to the point where we've talked about it. Beamer didn't have a choice. Well, it's kind of now like when a new head coach takes over a program and you kind of have that reset. I think you have a little bit of a reset for the offense. And I'm sure right now they have a lot of faith in Furry because, hey, it's somebody new. He's incredibly high energy. He spent time in the NFL, and there's an excitement level. How much can he do in 1 week of practice and one bye week of practice? We'll find out. You're not going to reinvent the offense, but I do think there's maybe something to be said. Even though most of them getting paid, these are still college kids. There's something to be said for a little bit of different energy in the room and maybe just going out there with a little bit more belief now compared to potentially where things had kind of gotten the last few games.
And I think another interesting thing to think about too, not only with how Mike Furry structured his offense at Limestone, which was, a lot of it based on Mike Martz, greatest show on turf type of thing. I don't think he had, Kurt Warner and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and all those guys.
I saw one of those teams play in person, by the way.
Did you?
Really?
Yep.
I did too.
I saw them play the Panthers.
I did too. I might have been that same game. The Panthers win playoff game at home. No, it was regular season. Yeah.
Were you at the playoff game?
No, I just watched the playoff game.
The playoff game.
I remember watching it on TV.
Was that the one Steve Smith walk-off touchdown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I saw Greatest Show on Turf. I have no idea how old I was, but they were in Charlotte, and I want to say they did Greatest Show on Turf things.
They lived up to it.
Yes, but man, those offenses.
Oh,
were
tons
fun.
of fun. Yeah, unless you're a Panthers fan watching it against you. But Furry got that background, receivers coach, recruited and has coached some of these guys. So the reason I bring that up, do you see South Carolina open it up a little bit more offensively? We know Sean Elliott's going to have involvement. Shane Beamer's talked about having the whole staff involved in game planning to include Markwell Blackwell. We know Elliott has a background offensively with mobile quarterbacks. We've seen even some of his run concepts be implemented throughout the season. But what do those two, and specifically Furry and actually calling the plays and sequencing the plays during the game, what they come up with? I would not be surprised if you see South Carolina open this thing up a little bit more, because the interesting thing is you've seen Carolina at times this season when they come out and they spread it out a little bit and they open it up and they're a little bit more throw to set up the run, they've had a little bit more success. But just like everything else with the offense, they haven't been able to consistently sustain that kind of style, that identity, whether it's just something going wrong, taking a sack, having a negative play, or just getting away from it and maybe getting a little bit too predictable. You have seen some stretches of this offense where when they have opened it up like that, they've had some success. So does Furry go that direction? Does that spark them a little bit? I don't know. And they've got obviously a tough road coming up Saturday. I mean, this is probably the toughest game, at least on paper, for the remainder of the season. It's a heck of a first game to have as an interim OC.
Sure.
No doubt about that.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be a challenge. We'll get specifically into A&M as the week goes along, but they're good on just about every facet of defense, as you saw this past weekend against Missouri, and they're going to put Lenore Sellers under a lot of pressure. Really good pass rush. Talked about their havoc rate a little bit yesterday, so you're going to have to find creative ways to get that ball out really quickly. Probably going to have to use that short pass game to supplement for the run because, again, Carolina's just struggled to run the ball this entire year. even though A&M has given up some rush yards on the ground so far this year. But yeah, Freddie's going to have his work cut out for him, and who knows what happens over the course of these final 3 games. But I think we're all anxious to see what differences he can make as the OC coming up Saturday.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead. I know we'll talk about him later this week, like you said, but I am very curious to see that there. I think 2 things could be true, right? Well, there are things you can do to help out your offensive line and to help out your quarterback against a tremendous pass rush to an extent, right? But if you were just getting whipped up front, there's only so much you can do. Like that, there's a limitation to that,
Right.
I think. So I'll be curious to see what do they come out and try to do to just try to neutralize that front to an extent. Is there anything you can do? I mean, A&M is the best in the country right now at making things happen up front. Tackles for loss, way up there. Sacks, they're way up there. And that's what we just typically have come to expect from Texas A&M's defenses. So are you able to – is there enough sort of difference that you can introduce to keep them, I don't know, a half step slow, basically, as someone that there's really not any tape on what you're going to do if you're free. Like, you can go back, you can watch the limestone film. It's really not going to tell you a ton in terms of preparation if you're Texas A&M, because most of what he's going to have to do is going to have to be out of South Carolina's playbook. Now, what within this playbook can you go back and maybe can you change the focus a little bit? Can you change the approach a little bit? Can you change, I like Chris's word, sequencing, in terms of how you call this thing? But can you do it enough throughout the course of a game as well? Because a lot of times, I mean, we talk about the script on this show all the time. A lot of times the script comes out, maybe you made this little tweak, maybe you kind of have this, like, I would say, diverse plan where you're hitting them in all these different ways. And then what happens? Defense is like, oh, okay, this is what they're trying to do today. Let's settle in. Let's be on the lookout for this and that. And then the defense settles in. And a lot of times it is hard for an offense to keep that going unless they're just that good, right? Like you can catch a team off guard a little bit on that script. So I'll be curious to see, A, what's the script look like, but B, is there any just semblance of going down there and keeping that going? But guys, what creativity can you introduce if you do have some opportunities to score against A&M? If, these games we keep talking about, it comes down to turnovers, red zones, third down. The best coordinators, they have a little something. And it's not every third down. You can't kind of call your spice plays every third down. But I go back to that Alabama game. I don't even know if you would say Grubb called a great game against South Carolina. It was kind of ugly on offense for Alabama. Mm-hmm. But didn't it feel like when the game was on the line, their 2-point calls, their late third down calls, they had some really good stuff on. And so I think for Carolina, if you have opportunities in the red zone, if you have opportunities in key third downs, what do you have in place that can give you some of those key conversions?
We'll get to more of this on the other side as we continue to preview Mike Furry being the offensive coordinator for the Gamecocks coming up on Saturday as they take on Texas A&M. We're live here at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia for the Veterans Day golf outing. We'll be out here all day long, going up until 3 here on the game. All right, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris with you along here at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia on your Veterans Day Tuesday here on The Game. Of course, Coach Beamer coming up here in a little over 90 minutes, and we'll talk plenty about Mike Furry as the new OC or play caller, however we want to describe it for the
Can't
final
say
three
OC,
games. Can't
Tyler.
say OC because it's a collaborative effort in terms of game plan and all that kind of stuff. And I think, and you wrote on Gamecock Central the other day about goals for the season. And if we kind of narrow this down specifically on offense, what are the goals? Like, what can this offense actually accomplish over the course of these final three games? Hopefully helping them win the final three games and get themselves to a bowl. But like, yeah, we'd sure love to say, okay, go out there and score 50 points and have 500 yards of offense every single time. That's probably not going to be in the cards. But in terms of like realistic things, what can we actually expect or hope for in these final three games?
I mean, for me, and obviously the like coach answer, they're trying to win the games, right? But from a big picture standpoint, I mean, let's be honest, guys, it's a year-to-year business now. And so I look at this, frankly, as a time of evaluation on both sides of the ball as well. Who are you going to put your resources into retaining? And, frankly, who on the roster are you kind of like, well, they're maybe not in the plans a ton for next year. I will extend this to defense as well. Like, I think for one, you want to try to get Lenoris going, right? Like you need for him to go into the off season with some confidence and feeling better about himself, particularly if he is back at South Carolina, which it seems right now like he is leaning to being. Then you want some momentum there. You want some momentum from this offensive line. There have been signs of improvement from this offensive line. I think that's a spot. Who do you kind of see in the future plans on the O-line as a starter? And who are you going, we got to go heavy portal at this O-line position? Yeah. Your young wide receivers, I'd love to see. We saw Malik Clark get in the game late at Ole Miss. I'd love to see Malik get out there and get a little bit of run. I'd love to see Donovan Murphy get the football a little bit more. Loved what we saw from B-Row at Ole Miss. Did y'all notice we got a little bit of Jalewis Solomon on special teams?
Yep.
First time I think we've seen that. So I'd love to see Jalewis maybe get a couple, and I understand completely. You got to put the best guys out there. But one of my goals I wrote about on that piece was, man, you got to continue to evaluate who is in the major plans for next year.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, because I like to keep it like the easy answer to your question, Tyler, is do enough to win, right? Like you'd like to go win some games starting on Saturday, go get yourself to a bowl, go get a couple wins, whatever it may be, go win some games. And obviously, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to play much better than you have offensively. I mean, obviously this weekend, that's obvious. Even against Coastal, man, I don't know if y'all been paying attention to Coastal. They're scoring some points. Mm-hmm. Like that's not a team you're necessarily going to say, all right, it's just Coastal. We'll shut them down. We can go score 17 points against them and win that game. That's probably not going to be the case. And then obviously against Clemson, who, they've had their struggles this year, but they've shown an ability to score. They've struggled more, I think, defensively as of late. That's a game you're going to have to go out and score some points. So that's your obvious answer. But when you get past that, if you're kind of taking a little bit more of a, I wouldn't even call it pessimistic, maybe a more realistic stance, understanding that you're making an external hire, 99% making an external hire for next year. And so a lot of what you're doing is evaluating players, like you said, Wes, trying to build confidence in some of these younger guys, getting a good look at some guys, going out and giving yourself a chance to be more competitive down the stretch on the field this season. And I think even giving Shane Beamer even some ideas about, okay, this is maybe what we need going forward. If they can find some success, him baking that into his process of, okay, this has actually worked for us down the stretch. This is maybe more of the direction that we need to go in the future for next year.
Well, and can you find a way to have Sellers play the type of football we know he's capable of playing? We've seen it in little bits and pieces so far this year, but he hasn't been able to put together that whole game and look like himself from a year ago. And obviously what we saw last of him against Ole Miss a couple weeks ago looked like the worst version we had seen, lacking confidence, not making easy throws, those kind of things. And there's a lot of nuance and specifics to that. Can Mike Furry re-unlock that confident version of Sellers that plays the best football in these final 3 games? Is that going to be good enough to win you games? I don't know, but you certainly give yourself a better chance when 16 is playing up to capabilities, which unfortunately we just haven't really seen enough of this year.
I'll be curious to see. You're going to have a play caller who will see the game in the eyes of a wide receiver at this point and at his core. And so what can he do to get some of these receivers involved, get them going? Let's bring this full circle to the greatest show on turf. A tweet from Kurt Warner, actually yesterday. I'll never understand when an offense is playing versus a man team, how they don't fill the plan with different kinds of motions, stack, bunch, formations, releases, some plays with different release patterns, quick crossovers, or players forcing the D to have to decide if they're going to lock or switch coverage at last second. So many little things beyond lining a guy up and saying when. When I see the words lining a guy up and saying when, I cannot help but my brain go back to that 4th and 4 at LSU where the idea was, hey, it's man coverage, our guy versus their guy. And maybe there was more to it, and that was protecting a player by saying that to an extent, maybe. But point being, if you're thinking about this game from a wide receiver standpoint, what can you do to give these receivers a little bit better chance to separate? What can you do to give the – now, there were some guys open against Ole Miss. Don't get me wrong. Like, it wasn't like they were locked down. But there have been times against some teams where you're going, it's pretty good coverage from the opponent. Can't you create some type of, like, conflict out there, some type of bump, some type of rub? Particularly, again, going back to 3rd down, key money down. So if I'm Mike Furry, I'm thinking about this from a standpoint of I know how to get wide receivers open. So to me, if you can draw up some things that will accomplish that, especially early on, can you get Sellers going, start rebuilding that confidence, and let him build? Some of his best games, I think, has been when South Carolina. Now they did try to throw early against Ole Miss as well. Was that the first play, deep ball to Harbor? First or second play of the game is the deep ball to Harbor that went off his hands. So they did maybe try to do that this past or 2 weeks ago as well. But, the Kentucky game, I think of, where you went play action down the seam to a tight end.
Dingle,
Jordan, yes, to Dingle, and made a play there. So I think there are some things that you can do to get Sellers going. A big part of that, though, can you get these receivers open? Can you just get them some open looks, man? Like that is what it's all about. There's a 1,000 things you can do to try to clear up the picture a little bit. A lot of it does, in my opinion, go back to spreading things out a little bit more. When you spread it out, you kind of simplify the windows a little bit for your quarterback.
And can you, and this goes to the point about Sellers. One of the things that we've seen throughout the year, and I think we really saw it at Ole Miss, is kind of a disconnect between him and the offensive line. And that, we saw Ole Miss played a very strange defense at times where sometimes they're rushing 2 guys, 3 guys, and frankly, they're not even rushing at times. Their goal is, let's hang out, let's eat some space, eat some time, let's cover on the back end, and when Sellers inevitably bails the pocket, go get him, right? And we saw that. And so that creates a frustration between the offensive line who's sitting there going, man, they only rushed 2 or 3 guys. Aren't we good? And Lenora Sellers saying, well, there's nobody open, and I got to bail the pocket and try to make something happen, right? So from a play calling standpoint, can you use that, as a coaching point of here's how we handle situations like that?
Yep.
But then schematically, can you draw up some things to try to avoid getting into those situations, or can you have a schematic answer for situations like that?
Second straight year, Pete Golding for Ole Miss has had a phenomenal game plan, I feel like, against South Carolina. I don't think we've seen too many teams go that far in the direction of we're going to have a specific game plan to contain Sellers. And other than Illinois, they not similar, but they had the same approach. So I think worth mentioning that.
Yeah, we'll hear from Beamer coming up today at 1 o'clock. And get his thoughts on all that, as well as look ahead to A&M this upcoming weekend. We'll check how we did on buy or sell over the bye weekend coming up next as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along here from Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia for the Veterans Day Golf Celebration here on the game. All right, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark, along with you here at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia as we are celebrating Veterans Day out here. Everybody out on the course, hopefully playing well and hopefully staying warm. It's pretty chilly out there today, but not a cloud in the sky, plenty of sunshine, and a great day here at Charwood Golf Club on Veterans Day. Another weekend is coming past in the college football season, which means we got to check how we did for buy or sell. This is becoming an intense race as we're getting down to the nitty gritty going through the month of November. Question number 1 from Friday. The line was set at 2.5 in terms of top 10 teams losing. BYU and Texas Tech played each other, so we knew one was going to be guaranteed. Buy or sell, 2.5 top 10 teams losing. Buy would be the over, sell would be the under. We all sold. We were all correct, though we were very darn close to having 3 top 10 teams lose.
Yes, I have started watching games in the context of the buy or sell, so
I know.
I was nervous.
Yes, definitely rooting for exactly what happened.
Yeah.
It was close.
So in the waning moments of Penn State and Indiana, were you thinking like, okay, need Penn State to get this so I can be correct on buy or sell? And same thing with Iowa and Oregon.
Well, not
Or no, the other way, Indiana to win. Indiana to win.
Yeah,
Sorry.
actually those games I was so locked in. I was not thinking about buy or sell anymore because those were 2 fantastic games. But I do check.
Okay.
I do some box score watching during the college football Saturday now.
Well, I know that specifically because of the second question that I asked, which was last week against Penn State. Julian Sand had more touchdowns than incompletions, 4 touchdowns, 3 incompletions, something he's done a couple times this year. Buy or sell, he would accomplish this again against Purdue, which he started off on a pretty good track.
He had 1 touchdown and 1 incompletion. When did I send that to you guys? Maybe at the half?
Yeah, early in the game, halftime, somewhere around then. He would end with just the 1 touchdown and 6 incompletions, though. So
terrible day.
We did all sell on that, so we did get that one correct as well.
Okay, good.
We all sold
We're
that?
doing okay. Yeah,
we did. We
That's
all
right.
sold that. I think you may have wavered back and forth a little bit before selling.
I think I waver on all of them.
Well,
So, by the way, so speaking of quarterbacks, box scores, talked about this last hour. Wes, did you catch the crazy quarterback statistic that we passed last hour?
Mm-mm.
Our guy, Joe Fagnano
mm-hmm.
at UConn.
This the guy you texted me about?
Yes, 7th year guy.
Hmm.
How about 25 touchdowns and no picks? 68% passing.
Uh-huh.
My man will
How do
throw
you
a
do
pick.
that?
He'll throw a pick this week.
Well,
Like,
he threw a quote unquote pick on a 2-point play last week. Didn't count.
though. Doesn't count.
6 turnover worthy plays. You said Tyler?
That's right, but none
How
of them.
how about go ahead and log this one? Bonus buy or sell.
Uh-huh.
Our boy, buy or sell. Does he throw a pick this week?
Ooh, okay.
Wes already bought it.
Yeah, all right.
Add that to your docket
All
for
right.
what
I
Friday?
can do that.
Yeah.
Speaking of quarterbacks with insane stat lines, has Jack told you guys about his experience with Western Carolina this past weekend?
No.
He went to the Western Carolina Mercer game, and Western Carolina really good on offense, not great on defense. Their quarterback, Taron Dickens, 33 touchdowns and 2 picks, and he didn't even play in the first 3 games of the season.
That's the Curran Bell offense.
That is. He put up 551 yards and 7 touchdowns on Saturday.
And lost,
They
right?
lost.
And lost 49-47 to Mercer.
They can't stop anybody.
No, they can't, but
their
their
quarterback is very efficient.
they're explosive on offense. So,
Let me make a point real quick. I know everybody kind of, when you're so bad on offense, you kind of get this thing like, man, I'd do anything to have a good offense. Y'all remember the 2014 season at South Carolina? Being great on offense and terrible on defense, it's not fun. It's not a fun way to live either.
Yeah.
You know?
Because at some point you're going to get stopped on offense,
Yes.
and you feel like you cannot get a stop on. Like if you get a stop, you're on defense. You're like, oh my god, the miracle has happened.
I know it wasn't until the next season that he finally walked away, but is that when Spurrier kind of looked around and was kind of like, maybe I'm about done with this?
Yeah.
Yes, probably.
That did not help. That accelerated the path, I think, for sure.
Buy or sell question number 3. I got really obscure with this one. Danny Scudero is the leading receiver in all of college football at San Jose State. He had a 215-yard game against Hawaii the prior week. They played Air Force this past weekend, who had already surrendered a 200-yard receiver early on in the year when they played Navy. Buy or sell, could Danny Scudero eclipse 200 yards for the second game in a row? He could not. 5 receptions, 41 yards, no touchdowns.
Not even close.
Not
Danny.
even close.
Come on, Dan.
Chris was the only one to sell on that. So Chris is on a good little streak here. Buy or sell number 4, a Power 4 team with an interim coach would win a game this weekend. You two sold, I bought. You were correct. No Power 4 coaches won this weekend. Though a few came close.
You were looking.
No winners.
You were looking at Florida, Kentucky, right?
I was looking at Florida,
Primarily.
Kentucky. I was
Not
looking at
close.
UCLA and Nebraska as well.
Mm.
And yet Florida, Kentucky, not even close.
Not even close.
What
So-
was that about?
So bad that Lagway got benched at halftime.
I mean, out of all the bizarre things that have happened in college football this year, and there are many, the DJ Lagway experience has been one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the five
Five pick
performance
against LSU, 3 this past weekend. Has he played poorly enough to where he's going to have to go like G5 next year as like a transfer, assuming he doesn't stay at Florida?
No.
No,
No.
no.
I don't think so.
Way too much upside.
Yeah. I mean, because, man, you watch him sometimes, he does some things that are – I think he needs a change of scenery, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a physical change of scenery to another school, but he needs a reset offensively.
A
You know what I
Lane
mean?
Kiffin offense?
Maybe.
That might
Well,
help. That might
so,
help.
So when they
Yeah.
played Georgia the other week, they did a really good job of kind of highlighting his mechanics and how screwed up they are. Like his footwork's really bad. Like again, some of his throwing mechanics are really off. Like
Tyler, your
he's-
Georgia is showing.
well, no, and this was on the broadcast. There's a lot of development that he still needs. Again, his upside is very high, and that was probably and it's something that hurt Billy Napier in the long run in terms of how they're viewing him. He's not gotten the development he needs to take that next step as a quarterback, which has led to some of these really poor performances.
Guys, you know what else has happened while we weren't watching Lexington, Kentucky? Cutter Boley. He's making improvement.
Yeah, he's
He-
figuring it out.
I mean, he looked terrible against South Carolina, but
Mhm.
first road start, first SEC start, young guy, just looked like a young guy.
And Zach Calzada's flexing his NIL money on what, Snapchat or
Take that,
whatever,
Garrett.
TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Getting after Garrett.
Is that who he responded to?
Yeah.
Garrett?
I guess.
Garrett. Well, the guy, some guy claimed that, like, yeah, it was me. And somebody was like, well, what'd you tell him? He's like, I told him he was a bum or, something. Came back flexing on Garrett with his
Garrett from
Oh.
Lexington, like Tyler
Yeah,
from
but
Spartanburg.
like-
Yeah, I gotta make note of the call to Dabo here soon. Last one here from Buy or Sell over the weekend. Another Power 4 head coach will be fired by Monday. Didn't happen. We ended our 3-week streak of Power 4 head coaches getting fired.
How did we vote?
We all sold on that, by the way.
Okay. Kind of.
Which my only thing of a possibility could have been, I felt like Wisconsin, but they gave Luke Fickell, hey, you'll be back next year before the weekend. And then they went out there and won the game with their punter throwing for the most
I've
yards.
never seen that happen
The
in my
most
life.
ridiculous thing ever.
Bizarro world box score. Yeah, maybe you're watching Mike Norvell, which they did lose, but they're apparently going to wait that thing out till the end. It seems like,
Yeah.
at least till the end of the season. Maybe even to next season. It kind of seems like. All
Well,
right, so where are we at, Tyler? Do we have a tally? Oh, go ahead, Wes.
I was going to say, I mean, I'll take the point, but if we were going to lawyer this, technically Brian Kelly was not fired prior to this week, and now he is. Have y'all not seen that?
Oh,
Yeah.
he
wasn't-
actually
he was
terminated.
not coaching the games, but he was not terminated.
Sure.
What?
And
Can we talk about this on the other side?
we can
Yep.
we can talk about this on the other side for sure.
Y'all
But
have seen this?
Yeah.
yes, I have. To update the standings, Chris had a perfect weekend and got all 5 correct.
Again?
And
Didn't
now-
he?
I think he got 4 out of 5 last
Okay.
week.
Yeah.
But you now have the lead.
Heater. He is on a heater.
It is now 34 Chris, 32 Wes, and I'm at 31.
Oh, my.
Wow. Okay, Chris.
I will not gloat because I'll immediately go 0 for 5.
I knew Tyler wasn't winning because he didn't tell us off top.
Yeah, he didn't. He didn't.
If
go
he'd have
over the
mentioned who was
scoreboard.
winning off top,
Yeah. By the
So
way,
you got 4 out of 5. I got 3 out of 5. So Congratulations, Chris. Great weekend. Yes, we'll talk about the mess that is Brian Kelly and LSU coming up next to wrap up the hour. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour here on the game. All right, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday on the game, live at Charwood Golf Club for the Veterans Day celebration here. As we mentioned at the end of that last segment, the saga of everything going on in Baton Rouge could be its own reality show. It feels like the Brian Kelly I guess we'll have to put it in air quotes, firing was like a month ago now, considering everything that's transpired since then with the athletic director and the governor, and now this, where trying to make sense of this, Brian Kelly technically has not formally been fired, even though he's not the coach anymore. This whole thing is getting crazier, right?
Does his key card still work? Because
Did you want to try it?
here's the thing. Last I checked, he was not on the sidelines of the team, so
No.
you have been fired.
I don't even know if he's in the state of Louisiana anymore, to be honest with
Well,
you.
there was that one picture of him still just eating randomly at a restaurant the next day, just having his cheese fries or something.
He put out his statement on Twitter, like his thank you LSU statement.
Yeah, nobody didn't want to be like, whoa, coach.
Yeah.
You're not fired. What? How? So for those who haven't seen, they are now trying to fire him for calls so that they can avoid paying all the $54 million buyout. But when they initially fake fired him, they both behind closed doors and publicly talked about the winning there was not enough winning.
Yeah.
The on field. This definitely sounds like they said, we don't want to pay all this. Some lawyers sat down and said, how can we try to lawyer this? Whereas every single bit of common sense tells us they absolutely fired him, and they fired him because LSU was not winning enough games. They said that privately. They said that publicly. I know lawyers can manipulate things, but I don't see any way this holds up. And LSU has done something to me that I never, ever thought I would do. And that has put me on Brian Kelly's side on something, which is just a terrible place to be. But, dude, you offered him the contract.
Mm-hmm.
You poached him away from Notre Dame with this contract. You owe him the contract.
Yeah.
There is no legalese to it. You owe him the contract. And, I mean, to the extent, like, this is so goofy. Like, this to the extent that if I'm a coach that LSU's trying to hire right now, I mean, is this to the level of I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah. Well, there's already the other factors of the hiring process that already kind of seem like a deterrent. And this article by Dan Wetzel, there's nothing listed as what they could fire him for a cause specifically as. So I don't know what pathway or avenue they would go down to try and figure this out. But, yeah, I think we all just kind of assume, like, no, yeah, you fired him because he wasn't winning enough, and you owe him a lot of money now, and I don't think you're going to get out of this.
What's the cause?
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, like there wasn't even like a listed example of, okay, here's an avenue they could go.
Here's an NCAA violation.
Yeah, like, okay, so he's kind of a bleep hole and mean to his players, but that's not really for cause termination.
Well, and the other thing that shows you that they probably don't have a case is a lot of times if a school is trying to get rid of a coach and they're even thinking about going to, hey, let's try to fire him for cause.
Yeah.
There will be some stuff that leaks out.
Yeah.
Oh, he did this thing or he did that thing, and you're like, I don't even know if that's true or not, but like they try.
Remember when Jim McElwain got fired at Florida and he technically lied about the death threats that he got
Yes.
to his family, and that was like part of the for cause termination? That whole thing was weird, but like
Very weird.
that's how Florida justified the firing. Is okay, he was dishonest about this, like a little bit of a stretch, sure, but still that's what they were able to use. I don't know if they have anything like that on Brian Kelly that they can retroactively say, okay, hey, here's the reason why we're firing him now.
Well, he did get in front of the crowd at the basketball game and say he was going to win a bunch
Dishonesty,
of games.
yeah.
Dishonesty. He lied.
He's a liar.
He's a terrible dancer.
And did it with a fake accent.
Yeah, did it with a
so
fake accent. Terrible dancer.
misrepresented himself.
Yeah, for sure.
I would have actually respected if that was the reason. I don't
so
respect this at all at this point.
Could he just show up and start coaching again this weekend or something like that?
Well,
Like,
now
I'm
he's
not
been
fired.
I believe now he has been. So
okay.
they're
All
going
right.
to fire him for cause for not showing up at work the last 2 weeks.
So it's one thing to get fired on your day off. It's another thing to get fired after you've already been fired.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is incredible.
But here's the thing. Why would Brian, to this point, hey, Brian, we'd like to just give you 25 mil instead of 54 mil. No.
No.
Okay, well, we'd like to just give you 30 mil instead of 54 mil.
No.
Huh? No.
Yeah.
Like other than unless he literally just wants to go sit on the beach and he'd like to take 35 mil and remove the mitigation. They would maybe have it, but he's going to take less than half of it? No.
Yeah.
Why would he?
Yeah.
Why would he?
Yeah. No,
He can go coach high school ball, I believe, the way this one's worded, and make 54 mil. He can go. I'd be the analyst for Maction on ESPN if it was me.
Calling Central Michigan
Yes.
games?
Yeah.
He's familiar.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that we're all kind of on Brian Kelly's side on this kind of thing, which shows you how
Just
screwed up it
this
is.
one
from
thing-
Feel a little
LSU's
dirty.
Yeah, I
standpoint.
need
I
a
know it
shower
is
now.
dirty. Yeah, we'll see how that continues to unfold.
Cut this show off.
Yeah, well, it's the end of the show. Coming up next, halftime shows continue on from Charwood Golf Club here in West Columbia on your Veterans Day here on the game.